ding 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 ding.
Fubble time.
Hi, I am Teresa Tomey.
And I am Patrick Ziegler.
And we are
Fubble Entertainment.
And this is
Fubble time.
I wonder if people, what cracks me up is we're so big. We are, and then it's this tiny little scroll that goes, Fubble Entertainment. It kind of cracks me up. How are you, Patrick Ziegler?
I'm good.
It's fall. You're happy for fall.
I am so happy to be in fall. I can't handle it. I drove into Grand Rapids today and it was beautiful skies, and now I'm back home and I've got the window open and it's 60 degrees.
Oh my heavens. I've got the air conditioning on over here in La La Land.
Yeah, you got a little bit of heat there, right?
A little bit of heat going on, but I love it.
I'm going to write, who's joining us?
Who's here today? We're continuing our, who's joining who?
I know. I didn't finish it and I accidentally hit it. So
that's okay. We have a few people. I can see them ticking on here of our little stream.
I know.
We are continuing our local to West Michigan, not necessarily from West Michigan, but local to West Michigan, all of this month. And our guest today is Allison Paris. I'm delighted to be chatting with her. The bio she sent me says that she's the associate director at Civic Theatre, but I think she sent me this bio before that title changed to artistic director. So that's how long we've been planning for her to be here, and I'm excited. Not that long. It hasn't been that long, but we're going to talk to her about that in a little bit.
And people are tuning in. Evening. Hi, Sandra. Oh, right. my friend Daryl's here from Chicago.
Oh,
and then
great.
Facebook user. Ooh,
Facebook user.
Yes, there is heat here in LA. Somebody in LA, Facebook user.
Oh, I wonder who Facebook
serious.
User. That's great. Well, let's talk about Allison. She's directed 20 productions at GRCT, Grand Rapids Civic Theatre, including Matilda, Newsies. I saw Newsies. It was remarkable. I was blown away. The Little Mermaid, My Fair Lady, Akeelah and the Bee, Beauty and the Beast, and Sister Act. Allison has also worked as director, music director, and instructor for theater for the Colorado Springs Conservatory. Hello.
You sound like me.
I know. I'm doing a Patrick. I'm doing a Fubble. No, I didn't Fubble. The Academy of Children's Theatre, Sacramento Opera in California, of course, Solano College and Youth Theatre, and Hawaii Opera Theatre.
Yay.
Yes. She holds an MFA from the University of Hawaii-Manoa and a BA from Bradley University. She is credentialed. She's smart. She's talented. She's everything, and she's with us today. Allison Paris.
Da-da-da-da-da. Welcome.
Oh,
hello. There I am.
Hi, Allison.
Hi.
Great to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
I'm going to leave my glasses on so I can read the comments. Good. We're excited to have you here. I want to start. We always have a very specific question that we ask with when we start.
Raven is here, by the way.
I know. I saw that. That's
So
great.
excited,
Raven is really talented, Allison. He's somebody that we met on the TikTok. Patrick met on the TikTok, and then all of a sudden he's posting stuff like, I'm driving through Easttown. He's a local person.
Wait, so he lives here and should be auditioning is what I'm...
He should. He does. Allison, he does these parodies of Little House on the Prairie where he plays the characters, and it's hysterical. And I asked him, I'm like, why aren't you doing theater? He sings, he's a musician, he's so talented, and he's a writer.
Where are you, man? I'm auditioning Shakespeare in Love in like 5 weeks.
Oh.
I'll see you there, Raven.
That's great. Well, the first question we usually ask is going to be our second question. Yay, Raven. It's going to be our second question today. So the first question I want to ask you, though, is before you get into anything else, where are you from?
Oh, I'm actually from Greenville, Michigan. Oh. Yeah, which is a little bit north and east of Grand Rapids, like 5 minutes to an hour.
Dear friend from there.
Thank you. Raven says it sounds good. And my cousin's from when I posted you on Facebook, she was like, "We love Allison in Greenville," and I was like, "Oh,
my goodness."
I know, because we've had a conversation, and I guess maybe I knew you were returning to the area, but I didn't quite have it all. So we'll get into that in just a minute. Now, Patrick, now that I have that off my chest and I understand, not that it was getting something off my chest, but now that I understand, first question to Patrick Ziegler, because he always asks it.
Teresa went rogue on me. She's totally going rogue tonight, so watch out. I don't know what to expect, Allison.
No, it's scary.
So yeah, we always kind of just ask people when, where, how do you remember getting bitten by the entertainment bug? I won't say the theater bug necessarily, because you do all different kinds of entertainment, right? Directing, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I will say my very first sort of arts experience that I remember was in kindergarten, and we always did an all-school musical. And I just remember I got to be a flower, and I had like a foam headpiece. And here's the funny story with that. So all the girls had the foam flower headpieces, and all the boys had like sunshine headpieces with like pokey things. And I just remember there was one point at which we had never practiced with the foam headpieces. Ooh. And I remember we had this move where the boys had to like make a little triangle with their legs, and the girls would crawl underneath, and we were supposed to be all like, "Oh, flowers," but we'd never practiced with the headpieces.
Oh no.
And so we all kind of got stuck, and the audience thought it was hilarious. And I was like, yes, this is great. People are laughing and having a good time. And I think that was kind of over after that.
So you were bitten. I love remembering those moments where you just, something happens, like that laughter. I can remember the first time I walked on stage and feeling the audience and literally getting butterflies. Yeah. And isn't it interesting? So and Teresa remembers making people laugh too, as Betsy Ross, or wasn't it?
Betsy Ross, yeah. Hey, Benson Franklin, yoo-hoo. That was it. And the audience roared, and I was like, but I love that you got, it wasn't perfection.
No.
Perfection. And I love that it was in that chaos of doing live theater, of that live moment, that you had the ability to appreciate that moment. Are you a perfectionist?
Well, see, that's the funny thing. Now, as an adult, I would have been horrified, right? Even probably by age 10, I would have been horrified. But when you're 5, you don't know the difference. So it's too bad we can't just hold on to that sort of mentality. But I didn't. But it got me started, and I was very lucky. Our little small town, shout out Greenville, so much art happening there. So I was able to, I sang in the choir, I played cello in the orchestra, I played piano, I was on the speech team, I did theater. I mean, I got to do all of these things. And really, that's pretty surprising for a town that's as small as Greenville is. And they still do those things, right? The arts are really important there. And I'm so grateful for all those different opportunities to learn new things. It's great.
So
did you mainly learn that through community, or was it through school, or it was a little bit of both? Like cello. I mean, amazing.
Yeah. A little bit of both. I mean, certainly cello was at school, but then I got pretty serious about it. So like I came to Grand Rapids to do youth symphony, and my sweet mother, my mother, bless her, drove me down to Kalamazoo, which from Greenville is like a 2-hour drive once a week, to do cello lessons. And now that I'm a parent and I have my own child that's doing activities, I don't even know how my mother kept her mind, because, I was doing 4 different things all the time. So thanks, Mom.
Wow.
For watching.
So Raven calls you a multitasking queen. This is true. As a child. Fred Stella asks, dare I post this, ever party at the Lincoln Lake Casino?
Fred, were you listening? I was too busy to party. That's maybe why my mom drove me around so much. She knew, like, if you're too busy to get into trouble here in Greenville, that's the best route.
So you did learn the cello through community private lessons, but then you part of community theater there and in school?
Yeah, a little bit of both. So did, the drama club actually at my high school started just before I got to high school. I had a bunch of friends that started it. It was very student driven, which was cool.
Oh, wow.
But there was also the Creative Arts Council there in Greenville, which isn't there anymore, but Flat River Players, Bottom Stream Theater. So, there's a thriving community theater scene there. And I got to do a little bit of both, which again,
Nice.
it gave me the sense that, I don't have to pick one thing. I can be a little bit good at lots of different things or work on a lot of different aspects of a production. And that ended up being very useful for where I have ended up in life.
That's interesting. We were talking about this with Todd Lewis 2 weeks ago, and he talked about thinking his own personal struggle with, did he make the right decision by being an almost master of a lot of things versus spending, 10,000 hours on one thing. How does that, obviously it sounds like something you value, like you're like, yeah, I'm glad I took the path that I did. Is that a true statement for you?
Yeah, that tracks for me, certainly, right? I love that I have all of these different and varied skills. It makes me a better director for sure, right? Because when I do a musical, like we're doing Once right now, right?
Yeah.
Where every single person in the show plays an instrument, and I've played some of those instruments, and I can read a musical score, so it's very useful. Certainly, not so much now. When I was younger, I did sort of wonder, oh man, if I had just picked the opera track and stuck with that, would I be an opera singer, or would I be traveling the world singing opera? Maybe, but at the end of the day, I think somewhere in my mid to late 20s, I realized that just didn't fulfill me in the same way that this kind of work does, right? That I enjoy. I kind of prefer giving the microphone to other people and finding other people's talents and skills and gifts and seeing what we can do with that, as opposed to my own. I do love applause. I'm not gonna pretend like that's not true. But I also I enjoy that applause, whether it's me standing on the stage getting the applause all for myself, or whether I'm standing in the back of the house, watching that applause for my cast or students or whoever else is receiving it.
I want to ask a question that it's not on here, but you brought it up about. I am going rogue. About Once. We can get down in a little dirty, but I'm just thinking, community theater doing Once and finding these people that can sing and play instruments. How'd that happen, and how challenging was it?
Yeah, so when we were in the process of choosing it, there were a lot of people, and even shortly after we chose it, there were a lot of people that said, oh, that was a terrible idea. You're never going to find those people. It was very similar to what people said about when we did Newsies. Oh, you'll never be able to do Newsies.
Oh, wow.
So my sweet friend, Erin Kikos Pot, and I, who's my choreographer for both shows, we said that's kind of going to be our specialty now. We're going to do the shows that people say can't be done in Grand Rapids. Just
good.
Super fun. But it was pretty terrifying. So my experience at Civic has been, I've done mainly the big musicals. So I'm usually auditioning like 100 to 200 people. And we put up the Once audition, notice. And I think we had like 50 people a few days before the audition. And I was like, oh boy, I don't know. And then people started dropping off the list.
Oh boy.
And we ended up with only about 30. That morning I thought, okay, well, this will be my last show at Civic because now I'm going to get fired. So that's great. But then every single person of those 30 people that came in the door were fantastic. They understood the assignment. They understood the assignment, which was you have to come, you're going to need to play at least 2 pieces and show off different instruments, and you're going to have to sing and play at the same time. And they were amazing. So if you're only going to have a few people show up, you just want to make sure they're really great. And they were so fantastic.
Well, and I think it also said, we're working on this documentary that we've been working on for quite a while now, but it says a lot about the talent pool in Grand Rapids. It really is an interesting place, how this city has come together in this way that you can do something like once, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So but I'm going to back up your career here a little bit, because you got very far away from Grand Rapids and Greenville, certainly. So talk a little bit about that journey, a little bit. I would love to know, because I know that your degree also is in something
totally weird and random,
which I love. And I don't think Patrick knows this, so this will be fun for him. But yeah, tell us how you got out and how you got back.
I'll try to give you the short version. So I went to undergrad at Bradley University in Peoria, which is a little bit south of Chicago, actually about 3 hours south, and loved it. It was another place where I got to do a little bit of everything, which was super fun. Sort of realized that directing was probably going to be my path, but got a little, I don't know. I was studying, of course, Western acting, right? Which is a lot of like, what's my motivation? How does my character feel? And that's great and useful. But as a director, right, I was noticing that actors can talk all day long about their characters, but it doesn't necessarily mean they physically know how to create that character. It doesn't mean that they can go from what's in my brain to what's in my body. So I was having that sort of moment. And then at the same time, I was introduced to the work of Julie Taymor, who of course directed The Lion King. And I was like, that is my aesthetic. That's what I want my stuff to look like. And discovered that she had studied a lot of Asian theater, a lot of traditional Asian theater techniques, puppetry, movement, and whatnot. And I was like, all right, well, how do I do that? And in researching that, discovered that, well, sure, I could do that, but I'm going to have to spend years and years and years in Japan and China and Indonesia, and I didn't want to spend years and years and years and years doing that, right? For whatever reason. And discovered that at the University of Hawaii, they had a master's program where every year they would bring in a different master from these, various Asian theater, traditional Asian theater, whatever. Words are hard. And I didn't have to go to Japan for 10 years to study with a kabuki master. I would go to Hawaii and I would get to study with that person immediately, right? So that's what I did. I went and got this MFA in Asian theater directing, and I studied Japanese kabuki and kyogen.
Wow.
Indonesian rondai, Chinese jingju, a little like Cambodian dance. So I got to study all these very different aesthetics and sort of figure out how to integrate those into the work I was doing. Right. It was exciting. It was a big culture shock for me. Right. I'll just say, I said I was going to be short. I'm not, I guess.
No, I love it. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
Like if you have studied piano here or, Western piano or ballet or something, you learn the building blocks first, right? So you take ballet, you learn first position, second position, third position, and then you build on each of those things. And then you learn a little combination. And, over the course of a couple of years, then, you might learn a dance from the Nutcracker or something, right?
Right.
It is not that way. I took my first Japanese dance class and it's like, okay, we're learning a dance. And they didn't explain anything. They would just start moving around the room and you'd be like trying to mimic them. And you're just like, wait, but what's first position? And it wasn't until I think I was a full 2 years into Japanese dance before they taught us that there were names for these things. Oh yeah, this move is called this. Oh yeah, this move is called this. And
oh my gosh,
it's sort of a whole cloth way of learning. And everything I studied was that way. There were some Asian musical instruments that I learned that the same thing. It's just like, well, just learn it. And then we'll teach you the building blocks later. So it took my brain a little while to understand that, but it ended up being really, really good, right? It's good for us to be completely out of our comfort zones.
Oh my gosh.
Little old me from middle of, well, I don't want to say nowhere, but from small town America, that was or small town Midwest it was important. It was an important step in my journey, I think. So anyway.
So then you get back, you do a lot of traveling, you do a lot of work in other places.
I ended up working for the opera there, Hawaii Opera Theater, because I also took voice lessons and met some wonderful humans at the opera and studied with their young artist studio. And I graduated, and Eric Haynes, who's the director of education, said, "Hey, actually, we've just had a job open up. So do you want to stay?" And so I got the rarest thing in the world, a full-time job right out of grad school in the education department.
Gosh.
Yeah, that never happens. And stayed there for a while, and then moved around. So ended up in California for a few years, three-ish years, and Colorado for 3 years, and then back home to Michigan. So I went way out and then sort of worked my way back.
Were you back here when the job became available, or did you apply?
Yeah, I'd been back because I had done 2 holiday shows here before.
Oh, okay.
Penny Notter, hi Penny, sweet Penny, retired. So I came back in 2013, and then started this job in 2015. So I'd done some teaching here. I'd done taught a couple of classes, directed a couple of shows for like the summer rep program, and then Penny retired, and I applied
And you went,
Right.
I've got a degree in Japanese, in Asian theater.
It's perfect.
It's perfect. Raven wants you to know that Greenville is the birthplace of Meyer, which I'm sure she knows, but wants you, the listener, to know. So
It is, little known fact. Yep.
yes, not a small town at all. Very near and dear to our hearts. So how do you now, with this knowledge, and now you're back here in town, how do you do you throw your cast and say, okay, do it? Like, I mean, how do you take elements from what you've learned? Like, how do you integrate the things that you've learned with what you're making happen today?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely depends on the story, right? So when we did The Neverending Story, actually, that I was able to use a lot of my MFA training.
Oh, cool.
Some shadow puppetry, and we did actually, I'm going to try something crazy. If I turn my computer around, I think you can see, I actually have Falcor, the luck dragon, in my office. Is this weird? Can I do this?
No, it's all good.
Downtown Grand Rapids. And look, there's Falcor.
Oh,
Yay.
that's a beautiful puppet. Who built it?
Kathy Johnson.
Kathy, the best.
Yes.
So talented.
Rebecca Durrell is here, and she's the one, our friend that we said is from Greenville. She says Greenville rules.
Yes.
Her family was a big part of the Danish festivals that would go on there.
Oh, I love that.
And her dad and uncle, I believe, owned the furniture store in Greenville.
Nice.
And she did theater there.
She really had an uncle in the furniture business.
Oh, that's something nobody's going to get unless older people from Grand Rapids are here. And Detroit. We're already 25 minutes in. So opera directing, teaching, do you have a favorite?
Ooh, really, it's about the story for me. I think a good story told in the right medium is what's exciting, so I don't choose. In fact, I enjoy the variety, right? It's what's been great about Once is it's really a play with music.
Yeah.
Right.
I haven't done a play in a while. I keep doing the big giant musicals for lots of reasons. So that variety has been magic.
That's so cool, because somebody else was just talking about the story. And I can't remember who was talking about this, but it's like Teresa and I do different things. We act, direct, produce, write, and it is about when you find the right project and the right story, and what part of it you're doing is really exciting.
Yeah.
What do you want to ask something else, Teresa? Because I want to talk about the current situation of theater. So
first of all, Becky wants you to know that, or Rebecca, that her family is the Jorgensens.
What? The Jorgensens, Jorgies, the grocery store, which is like, I don't know if I should say this, but like 2 blocks from my where I grew up.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
It's a small world.
fun.
I want to know, because we do kind of jump a little bit around here. So I'm going to ask this question now. What does it mean for you to have the new title of artistic director? What does that mean to you? Not just, I mean, to be the first female full-time artistic director.
Yeah, I mean, part of it's an extension of what I've already been doing, right? So I've already been sort of running the education and outreach programming and directing 3 or 4 shows on the main stage and overseeing all the children's shows or family shows. So some of it's just more of the same in some ways. But what I love about it is now that I'm sort of overseeing literally all the programming in the building, we can integrate that a little bit better so that, you know, it's not, oh, the education department and the production department, it's together, right? We have the same goals, and how much more can we accomplish if, you know, our students that are taking, say, tech classes can easily slide into roles backstage and on the main stage, right? And just ways to kind of make that path clearer for everybody. That's really exciting. And just making sure, particularly, you know, we talk a lot about belonging and inclusion and making sure that, you know, what we've started in the education department with our belonging and inclusion efforts work their way all the way up to the main stage and everything we do, right? All of the partnerships that we do, all of the ways we reach out to the community. So that's awesome. I also was just thinking today, funny you mentioned it, about, so I'm a woman in a leadership role, and I do feel the weight of that a little bit of particularly young women in our programming, and I feel them watching, and you know, being able to say to them, I'm a mom, and I do this full-time job, and you can do those things, and there's going to be challenges, and not everybody's going to always like what you have to say, but you have to be brave enough to say it, you know? So, it's exciting. I'm very excited. And we have such a good team here at Civic. Just so lucky to work with such a great group of people. Some people who've been here a very long time, some people who are literally brand new to us. You know, Kate Mellett's our volunteer coordinator, started like 3 weeks ago, and she's already just doing such a great job. So it's an exciting time to be here.
That's so great. Yeah. So on that exciting time to be here and volunteer coordinator, yes. How is that happening with where we are? I mean, things are open, but they're open-ish, right? Yeah. So how's Civic and how are you personally dealing with this? It is exciting. I will say I try to look at the bright side first. So one of the positives to the last 18 months is we had to rethink literally everything we did, right? Because we couldn't be in our building, home base, where we have been for, you know, since 1979 in this stage. But in that, it brought new opportunities, right? So we were able to do driveway cabaret and do things online and do Broadway at the ballpark. And we started online classes, which is something we'd already sort of talked about, but we were going to do, we'll do that in like 2 or 3 years. Just kidding. We'll do it next week. Right. So those were definitely positives. And it gave us a little bit of, I mean, I don't want to lie. We were still just stupidly busy all the time administratively, trying to figure out how to keep things afloat. But it also gave us a little mental space when we were off the roller coaster of, you know, tech week, show rehearsal audition, tech week, show rehearsal audition. It gave us a little moment to step back and say, well, are we doing this the best possible way? And when we come back, is there a better way to do it? So that. Oh, wow. Good, right? That part was good. For example, you know, traditionally Tech Weekend is the worst, right? I mean, it's exciting, but you're like living at the theater. And I don't know if people know this at home, but we rehearse in a rehearsal hall literally until the Sunday before opening night. And so you get Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you're in preview. And that's really scary. It's scary for professional actors. And then to ask volunteer actors to do that is terrifying. So we were like,
do we have to do it that way? I mean, is there a law somewhere on the books that says we have to do that? And we decided, no, we don't. So we actually back Tech Week up now so that the actors are on stage Wednesday and Thursday before that Tech weekend. And then instead of being here for 1,001 hours on Tech Sunday, we're here a little bit on Saturday and a little bit on Sunday. And it truly made the whole experience just better for everybody. We got to opening night and we weren't all just running on caffeine and chocolate, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't that hilarious? Maybe
Sam
we don't have to do it the same way.
Right. Sam was sharing with me about it. And for those that didn't hear our conversation, Sam is a sound person for Civic. And he was a big fan of the new format.
Yeah,
That's
for sure.
Great. That's great. Raven says, I want to share this because it's quite beautiful. This harkens back to something you said earlier. I love how love plays with music specifically because it's how music touches us on a real life basis, which is an interesting observation. As you were talking and sharing your enthusiasm, I'm trying to formulate a question and I'm not sure exactly how to ask what I want to ask. So I'm just going to kind of blah this out. How does creativity get reflected in your life outside of the walls of Civic Theater, and does it? And how, and with your son too, is there any exchange of creativity there?
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Most of my life is inside the walls of this theater. You know, a little bit outside as a mom, right? I try to find creative ways more when he's 12 now, right? So nothing I can do will be cool. But when he was younger, you know, I tried to find creative ways to get him to do things. We do little puppet shows and things. I don't know how to answer that, Teresa, because I live here. I'm either here or I'm mommying, and there's almost no in between right now. Hopefully that will get better. I
think it's so funny. I think sometimes about creativity, like I think the way you brush your teeth can be a creative expression.
Yeah.
You know, like if you put the music on and I don't know, but I wonder. You know, you're like me, you've got a left brain and a right brain, right? It seems like you've got both of those are kind of being expressed as if you're admin, but you're also working with a choreographer to create a vision. I mean, those are two different parts of your brain, right? Do you have to do the numbers? Do you have to?
A little bit. I mean, that's really Bruce's job. Bruce Tinker, our executive director, but for sure, you know, I've always got my eye on that too.
On managing that.
Especially right now, right? Because that's kind of the second part to my answer is about what's going on, and it's scary times. You know, I think all arts organizations around town, and I think around the country, the houses are smaller because people, on one hand, are either really just nervous about being out and about, or you've got some people that just they don't want to wear a mask when they come to the show, so they don't come, and so. You know, you've got a smaller pool of people, and it's hard to get back into the habit, you know, of going to the theater. I think for some people, so we're struggling. I mean, I won't say we're struggling, but that's certainly a challenge. We were very careful, money-wise, for the last 18 months. But just knowing that we're going to have to keep an eye on that more than we would have in the past. And we're so lucky that we have so many generous donors and sponsors here in Grand Rapids. You know, Grand Rapids is a very philanthropic city.
Yes.
People open their hearts and often their checkbooks for us. And that we're so grateful for that.
What would Go ahead.
I just want to know about the show. Are the actors masked or not? And what's the audience? Are they sitting near each other? How is that working?
Yeah, good question. So our policy right now, and just I will say right now, because man, this COVID thing is a fluid situation, and I feel like every single day we revisit the policies because no choice.
Right.
And right now we are masked in rehearsal halls. And then once we hit the stage, anybody who is vaccinated while they are performing on the stage can be unmasked, but otherwise masked. And then we have audience totally masked. we didn't necessarily socially distance people in the house, because we started selling tickets before things took a turn for the worse. Boy, that happened fast.
Yeah.
But again, right now the houses are a little bit smaller, and so I felt it. I'm pretty nervous about being in crowds anyway. But then COVID's made it worse, and I felt great so far.
Great.
I think
we went to the theater the other night in LA, and everybody was masked, and we had to show our vaccine cards, and it was a black box theater, and it's fantastic. I do have one last question though. What would Grand Rapids be like if Civic Theater wasn't a part of it?
Oh, tragic, right? Just tragic. I would have said that before I took this job. One of the things I noticed when I moved to Grand Rapids, because I actually didn't come here much as a child. I think I saw 3 shows before I went to college. And so I didn't really know the theater scene here. But one thing I noticed is the ways in which Civic supports a lot of the other arts groups in town, right? So props, costumes, scenery pieces, and just other community theaters. I mean, the high school theaters and just lots of groups Civic helps out, and we partner with them. And because we have the School of Theater Arts, I think a lot of our students too then become actors and technicians in other theaters. So I sort of see us as like the feeder for the rest of West Michigan,
and beyond, as you just said. Oh, we've got students in LA, we've got students in New York, we've got students everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, Timmy, who we were talking about, and I'm putting up the website for Civic Theater to get your tickets and check it out for classes as well, and auditions, Raven. And I'm putting it in the chat. Timmy, who I was just talking about, is now going and taking over the sound position at Pepperdine.
Yep.
And he learned and trained, but he was on tour with Hello Dolly with Betty Buckley when everything shut down. But he's doing Rent. But yeah, there's a lot of people that have come through the doors of Civic that are, especially in the tech world, that are working in that world, which is amazing.
Little known fact, Timmy is also from Greenville.
Oh, that's right.
We grew up together. Timmy. But also on stage too, like Lori Valdir. Out and about. Brian Martin, I think, is about to do Mrs. Doubtfire on Broadway. So there's certainly, Mikey Winslow. There's lots of people from West Michigan.
Did Joe Carroll come through Civic?
I think so. That would have been before my time.
Okay.
But I'm.
And then it's so interesting because Teresa and I did theater at Actors and Spectrum with Gillian Anderson, who just won another Emmy this weekend, which is so cool. So Grand Rapids creates some
represents in the creative world.
Good talent. Allison, this has been wonderful. I mean, we've known you a little bit, but to really to dig in and find out about Hawaii was fascinating. I love that.
Weird things that I've done that I never really get to talk about.
And Nadia just surfaced and said Joe did. He was.
Joe did. Oh, hi Nadia.
Yay.
And then Rebecca says, like I said, Greenville has a creative niche.
It's so true. It's so true. Speaking of new people doing wonderful things, that would be Nadia Skidmore there, who's in our marketing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. I saw that. That's right. Congratulations.
New energy happening, and the pandemic has been a challenge for us all for sure. And boy, theaters have certainly felt it along with a lot of folks. So it's nice to see people trying and still getting on the other side of this.
Well, it's interesting. We just worked on the section of the documentary about COVID, and it's interesting hearing the different perspective. What am I trying to say?
Sure.
Of the different views of what happened and everything and what's continuing. So love this, Allison.
The Raven, love this. Allison, we'll meet soon.
I'm going to do the sign up Genius by next week for sure, Raven. So
great. Yay. And Nadia gives a shout out. Thank you. It's incredible to be there. I'm sure it's a 100-year-old theater or nearly 100-year-old.
It's our 96th season.
Yeah.
Real close.
That's crazy.
Wow.
That's crazy. I feel like I saw the first show. No.
Oh, that's great.
Maybe I'm not that old, but
Wow.
Well, Allison, it has been a pleasure. We're so glad you joined us here today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me. It was super fun. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Great. Bye.
We're going to send her to the green room for just a hot second, and we are going to sign off. Next week, we have John Harper Philbin, a local creative from the Chicagoland area originally. And
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And has been making films in West Michigan through his connection, through his work as a professor at Grand Valley State University. And outside of that too, he's been all over the place, and he's a huge national parks fan. So he's been to a lot of national parks, which I'm going to make that be part of our conversation.
Nice.
So,
Raven says, so good to see you guys. You too, Raven. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for hanging with us. And with that, what do we say?
Gotta go.
Gotta go.